Welcome to the new sound of online radio. Welcome to the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network. 'Cause you make me feel like I've been locked out of heaven. A mix of today's hits and hard-to-find favorites, combined with the most entertaining and intriguing talk anywhere. This is your sound. This is the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network at uenradio.com.
Welcome. We are done with Debi's Mind, Body, Soul, home of invigorating talk and all things to do with health and well-being. And I am one of your co-hosts. I am Del A.D. Jones. I'm a certified transformational coach and a 3 principles practitioner. I teach my clients psychological well-being so that they can have a more peaceful, loving, and joy-filled life regardless of their external circumstances. And before I introduce you to my beautiful co-host, I'm going to remind everyone that it is a call-in show, and you can call in at 323-284-7826. We also have our Facebook page open here on the computer, and if you have any questions you'd like to post for our wonderful guest today, then please post on our Facebook page too. And now, next to me, my beautiful co-host.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you, Del. Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Debbie Carlin Boyle. I am certified as a personal trainer, a fitness instructor, and an integrative health and nutrition coach. And I help people find balance in their life with everything that feeds us in addition to the food on our plate. So today, knowing what I do, we're talking all things health, and we have a great guest for you today, and I'm going to give him a little introduction here. So the saying, health is wealth, refers to your physical, mental, and social well-being, as well as being more important than just about anything else. So our guest today, Dr. Ptak, is a practitioner of exactly that. Dr. Jeffrey Ptak is a dedicated veteran health practitioner with decades of extensive knowledge, training, and skills in the field of holistic health. As a doctor of chiropractic, Dr. Ptak established Ptak Chiropractic in 1986 in Santa Monica, California. He has extensive training in acupuncture, nutrition, mind-body medicine, functional neurology, and neurospinal biomechanics, which we're going to find out what that is. As a member of many health associations and foundations, Dr. Ptak is a committed and passionate practitioner to help people achieve vibrant health. So will you please help us welcome Dr. Jeffrey Ptak to our show today. Hello. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
I know you have a practice and you're here in the middle of it. So we thank you for changing appointments and joining us today.
It's my honor and privilege. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for
Yeah, I
asking
know
me.
you've got people covering for you at your center, thank goodness.
Yes, thank goodness.
All right, so
Well,
we'll start at the beginning.
yes, because we know everybody has a story, and I've actually read your story,
Nice.
and I find it really interesting. I find in the health field that people get into that field because of something that happened to them in their lives, something they saw or something that personally happened to them. And that's sort of your story from a young age.
Very young age, is it?
Can we hear about it?
I'm happy to share.
Yes.
As I look back and as I traced it back, I was diagnosed with asthma at a very young age. And through my journey, I realized my traumatic birth was a big part of the creation of that disconnection, if you will.
Wow.
Forceps delivery
no.
kid, a lot of trauma that went on with mom, so there's the emotional component of that and taking on that responsibility.
Was that in the days when they were doing total blocks, like when they would kind of knock the mother out to, I know I was born that way.
You know, so that's interesting. I'm not sure if my mom was knocked out, but I know she had her own trauma around that. It was a long labor, almost into a third day.
Oh, wow.
So they kind of decided
happened?
out's better than in, so let's go. And at 3 months to 6 months is when the diagnosis was coined. So I was on meds for from about 6 months till 22.
Wow.
And it was through
That
that
early.
journey.
Very, very
And
rough
what
start.
Yeah.
Rough start.
What were the symptoms that they would think to give a 6-month-old baby?
I just was not
medication?
breathing quite well, and you know
Wow.
how moms have that intuition of just knowing something's quite not right.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of trips to the emergency room over time.
So it wasn't like croup or something like that. It was.
It was not that, but they
Yeah.
knew it was something, and they couldn't quite pinpoint it. But then asthma came up at about 6 months. I think the symptoms started showing up at 3 months, and maybe even sooner if you ask my mom, because I was just a cranky baby.
Yeah.
Were you formula-fed baby?
Formula-fed baby,
yeah,
yes.
there you go.
The new age
Yeah,
of
of course.
that stuff, too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, back then, our mothers would have had to fight. My ex-husband's mother fought to have natural childbirth and breastfeed him. And he's in his mid-60s now. So back then, it was not, this was the 50s. They were not.
that's right.
That was not protocol.
Yeah, not
Well,
protocol.
Yeah.
we were so poor that formula was too expensive. So
So,
we were
and
on
good
breastfeed
thing.
till we were
Yeah,
You
like
know what?
2 years
Good
old.
thing.
I love that.
My mother-in-law grew up on a farm, and that's she knew
Yeah.
better. So she fought for it, even though she had him in New York.
See,
She
my
fought.
mom grew up on a farm, so just interesting how it just wasn't available living in New York City
Yes,
at that time.
exactly.
So
Had
there
to
you
fight
are.
for it.
Yep,
So
big
wow,
time.
that's a very traumatic start.
Yeah.
So now you're a child with asthma as
Now
well.
I'm a child with asthma. I'm a teenager with asthma.
Ay, ay, ay.
Aspirations to be a baseball player. Yes, pitch for the New York Yankees. Who wouldn't want to?
Yeah.
But if I do a wind sprint, I could end up in the hospital. So the emotional stress I put upon myself.
Were you living on inhalers?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Once those
so
were
it's a lot of
discovered,
steroids and
it was a lot of medication,
Yeah.
pre-exercise meds, 2 inhalers at the time. So I was on 3 a day,
Ay, ay, ay.
like religion.
Yeah. Were you a single child or an only child rather?
No, my sister came about 2.5 years ago. So different experience.
Different
for
Different
her.
experience.
for yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Wow.
I
Would you say that your mother and father were sort of overprotective at all because of that diagnosis, or did they let you go out and really play and run?
That's a great question. There was always a kind of hovering for me, whereas my sister no. And, unconsciously, I think I was upset for a long time that they went ahead and kind of had a second child after how traumatic mine was.
Yeah.
So that was a whole other journey.
They wanted
Yeah.
a do-over.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Let's see if we can make it different.
Yes, but not a third. So that's interesting.
Were you prone to attacks that would make you end up having to go to the hospital and getting adrenaline
Very much
and
so.
that kind of thing?
I probably averaged 6 emergency room trips a year for the longest time.
So that's scary. So you were basically a little time bomb that your parents probably had an eye on to make sure you wouldn't. And they probably didn't know what was causing it because back then they thought that, or a lot of people still do, well, you're born with it. And that's not exactly
That's exactly right.
true.
And they would
As
hear,
we're going to talk about.
you'll
yeah.
grow out of it, you'll grow out of it. I just kept growing into it.
Yes, yes, because your diet probably didn't change or got worse.
That typical meat and potatoes and green
Well,
peas.
and
Fast
also
food,
growing up
processed
in a
food,
city.
chemicals.
Yeah,
Yes.
sometimes the air in a city can aggravate that condition as well.
Without a doubt.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Wow.
big time.
Okay, well let's. We
So
want
you
to
did
hear the
so
good
you
ending
were
to this.
kind
but
of
we'll
sick
wait
of
a bit.
being sick.
I was sick
so,
of being
yeah.
sick.
So what led you to?
I got to witness how it all just kind of worked around me. I'm a noticer, so I just kind of saw the way people acted, and they would do things when something went wrong. I knew the ins and outs of that hospital better than the doctors did because I was there more. They'd leave and go on. I was kind of a fixed point. So there was something that kind of clicked inside of me at one point that there just has to be a different way of doing things and acting, not only when there's a crisis, but there must be something we could do to stop this thing.
Yeah, preventative. And what age were you when you had that awareness?
I started to feel that somewhere in my early teens and then high school for sure, because ultimately mom and dad wanted me to be a medical doctor, firstborn Jewish male child. What do you want for your kid? And I decided to go into research, so I went into neuropsych. I was in a PhD neuropsychology program because I also got the emotional, mental component of the whole thing. So I can have an upset and I can't breathe. I can go run and I can't breathe. So what's the connection and what's going on.
Oh, wow.
So for
That'd be
me,
smart.
it became all brain-based, and then my life's taken off from there. So what I do now is quite similar to what I was studying then, but I can do it with my hands instead of with the tools neuropsychologists were using.
So, but your intent initially was to become a medical doctor.
My
correct?
intention was to heal and to kind of have a deep understanding of how this all works. And then I think, the service thing just came out just because of who I was and who I am.
And in the process, how from the point of making the connection, how long did it take for you to become healed and get rid of asthma altogether?
It took an incredible physical injury that I needed to heal from, and kind of my asthma cleared up, as a secondary thing. And that's when I was like, what the heck?
What
You
was
were
the injury?
forced to
I was forced to deal with
eat differently. And
I had 2 herniated discs when I was in grad school, which is what kind of changed my trajectory. So
From
I did
baseball?
From baseball and from a kind of a medical model. 2 years of trying to heal a blown disc in my neck, herniated disc in my low back. Did not heal. I had to leave grad school because the pain was too much. And that led me to a chiropractor where that healed. And then I'm like, oh my God, I don't have to use my inhalers anymore. What? Wait, what?
Wow.
And that's when it started.
it
So that
clicked.
was the connection.
Yeah,
That
light
was the
bulb.
awakening,
Yeah.
like in an instant.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God. And then it took me 3 years to finally choose that path to go down.
Now, I'm curious. So you said that your asthma attacks cleared up after you had this injury, or you got healed from this injury with working with a chiropractor.
Right, there
And
you
you
go.
attributed that to all of that to working with the chiropractor.
Correct.
And can you describe why you thought that came about? Because if somebody has a particular injury, they go for that to be healed. So
Correct.
what was going on in your mind that you went, wait a minute, there's more to than just
the connection.
Yeah, the
It
discs.
was kind of as you don't have to be in that pain state anymore where you can't really think clearly, there's no clarity. As I started to feel better, I noticed I wasn't grabbing from my inhaler so much.
Wow.
Versus 2 puffs a day, 4 times a day, no matter what. If I had a cell phone then, I would have been timing it. But that internal clock kept going off. And then I realized I just didn't need it anymore. I'd forget to take it. There was this, I just didn't need it. I was breathing, I was fine. And as I kept working and learning with Dr. Costello, I started to put that all together. And he kind of awakened that the path I was on, brain surgery, drug stuff, how this whole mental emotional thing connects, I started to see that showing up for me under his care.
So under his
Wonderful.
care,
Fabulous.
did he work on diet as well as doing all the physical therapy?
That's
and
when I
chiropractic
started
work?
dropping
That's-
what I was doing and
So
stopped running
diet's
from
so huge.
humongous. That's that whole triune neurology, food, and movement. And so he
Absolutely.
drove that home for me.
That's great. So
Yeah.
that and the connection, and that's what I mean when people get into the field. They really do have that moment, that time where they see the connection. When the connection is made, and then you realize, oh my God, if it could help me. And again, at that point, think of all the years that you had in pain and just lived with it as a way of life.
Almost 27 years.
Wow.
It was crazy.
And then realized simple changes like this could actually change your life forever.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
And then I had to share the message. So
Yeah,
here
Good.
I am.
Exactly.
So
here I
yeah.
am.
So now we move forward
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah.
That's
There we go.
amazing.
Yeah.
I love stories like
Yeah.
that. It's very inspirational for people
My drive
to
for
understand
kids.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
sure.
Start while they're young, so that they don't come to you with these incredible symptoms that you have to then go backwards
Exactly.
and fix.
Yeah.
You can preventative medicine. So what I see here, talk about definition of health. What does definition of health mean to you?
Well, for me, it's not only the physical, it's easy to go there, but my experience brought me to how much more mental clarity, how much more emotional connection I had, how deep that was, and it opened such a spiritual experience for me.
And how old were you then?
That was in my 20s.
Okay. Now, had you had some sort of spiritual or religious background?
At the time, just grew up Jewish, but not a practicing. But there was kind of like a knowing, but whatever experimenting stuff I did in the 60s and 70s kind of opened me up to the knowing that there's something more than what we're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then I just kept following that, and then I became a practicing Buddhist for 25 years, and it just kept developing from there. That I just
Incredible.
looking for that deeper understanding and connection.
Now, did you bring your Buddhist practice into your chiropractic center? Or not maybe overtly or quietly?
Yeah,
Yeah.
more not
quietly,
Yeah.
kind of
But
just
it's-
understanding how to connect with
Yeah,
people.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's an underlying feeling and approach and
Yes.
the way you handle situations and people,
Absolutely. And
which I'm sure they sense immediately.
Yes.
without
you
a
know?
doubt, without a doubt.
I mean, going to medical doctors can be very hectic and very nerve-wracking,
Absolutely.
and to be in a very gentle place with somebody with your background has got to be
Yeah.
very healing for them.
So I'm
So,
just
yeah.
curious before we get into the, some of the corrective care and things like that. I know that you went to USM. What got you to USM?
At the time, I was going through a divorce, and like all things might happen, people started coming for the few years before that were USM grads. I'd never heard of it
So
before.
let us just tell the
Yes,
audience
exactly.
Yeah,
that
go ahead.
USM is the University of Santa
Santa
Monica,
Monica.
and it's
Correct.
a spiritual psychology course
Yes.
that
Right.
you
Yes,
took.
a
Okay.
master's they offer in spiritual psychology,
Right.
which we're familiar with as
Yes.
Del
alumni.
has.
Yes.
But okay, so back to the story. So people were coming to you that were actually students
That
at
were
USM.
either active students or graduates. One of them had been a patient of mine for quite some time, and I watched his process of healing from his divorce, from his work that he was totally not happy with. He was a Fox Sports executive kind of guy who moved into becoming a therapist, and that was just an interesting process to watch.
Wow. Yes.
And Craig said something to me one day where literally I said, hold on. I left the room from taking care of him, and I just went and made the call.
Wow.
And it
You
happened
were
just
compelled.
like that. It was like,
yeah,
all right, I
those
just,
moments you have to
So
grab
it's
them when
somebody
they
called
happen.
Craig's fault.
yes,
Yeah.
it's all,
His fault.
it's all because of
Yeah,
Craig. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
and it's part of
Wonderful.
who you are too,
Yeah.
to be able to extend that knowledge and that
Just
purpose of what you have.
Just another way to just connect so deeply to heart and be
Yeah.
able to really show up for people and show up for myself.
Wonderful.
So
Beautiful.
we have a phone call.
Yes. Hello, caller. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Miguel Vega, Los Angeles, California.
Hi. Thank you so much for calling. Do
Yes,
you have a
thank you.
question or a comment for Dr. Ptak here,
Ptak.
please?
I don't have a question. Just one of his, and just wanted to.
We're losing
Corrupt-
you. You're
efficacy.
breaking
Doing-
up.
Can't hear you, McCall.
I'm a retired Navy SEAL that hit by an IED and caused critical with
Oh, dear.
to
we
great
have
success
we have a really bad
last
line.
You are
5 years.
breaking. You are breaking up.
Yes,
Is
we're
there-
catching
can you
little words here and there.
yeah.
But could you maybe call in, hang up and try calling in again and see if we have a better line? Because we're missing every other word. I got the retired Navy SEAL and an accident. But could you try hanging up and calling back, please?
Sure.
Thank
All right.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Powerful story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah.
then there's this-
Just from the one
Yes,
word. We
I know,
knew
I
it
was-
was coming, but we got to hear it.
Yeah.
You know?
So you can fill in the gaps. So this is a client of yours calling in. Is that
It's an
correct?
active patient right now who's
Yeah.
now under more maintenance care than actively. But when I met him, he was suffering from, I can't remember how many years of Navy SEALdom he was, 20-something
wow.
years. The kind of guy that walked around with a broken neck for 5 years,
Oh, didn't know
that
it.
kind of thing. And however we met and connected, he's just, what an incredible difference.
All right.
Hello?
He's back with us.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello. Is this better?
Oh,
so
much.
much better. Yes. I'm sorry, we
Okay,
didn't
great.
even get your name last time. What's your name?
My name's Miguel Vega.
Mikhail Vega. Okay,
Welcome to
wonderful.
our show.
So yeah, we can hear you. So
Yeah.
what did you want to share with us?
I just wanted to share that, like anybody out there thinking of that listening to this, to the efficacy of what Dr. Ptak is doing. I was in the military for almost 22 years. I got hit by a roadside IED while serving in the SEAL teams in Iraq, and was subsequently medically discharged. They had me on a bunch of pills, and the pills themselves almost killed me. And so I started to take everything into my own hands to heal. And chiropractic was in my life for a long time, but the nature of the amount of money that you make while you get out of the military wasn't there. And met Dr. Ptak through a friend, and he took me on as a patient. And since I've been going to him, I was suffering from almost every 2 weeks massive migraines that would put me in I'd have to stay in a dark room for a couple of days to get those to pass, and then using painkillers to mitigate that. And so once I started going to him, initially things seemed to get worse, and then they got a lot better. I think we had to dig back into the old injuries, and then start realigning things. And I think there's even a term for it in chiropractic where you revisit old injuries come up as you're on the path to wellness. And I got to say that it's been pretty life-changing for me. And so I actually started a nonprofit organization called Vital Warrior that Dr. Ptak has been very gracious in helping and donating services to veterans suffering from combat-related stress and mitigating pain. It's been an incredible blessing, and he's affected multiple lives in the veteran community as a result.
Well, I can't thank you enough for calling in and for your service, obviously, to our country.
That's amazing that he
I
was
think
able
we
to help
need
you.
to have a call with you for a future show.
Yes. We'll get
So-
your information.
Yes.
So.
Okay, we will get your
you've got-
information.
Yeah, that
and
sounds
give you
great.
a call.
Yes.
That sounds
Thank you
great.
so much for
Yes.
calling in.
Yes,
That's
you
it's
sound
really
very
wonderful.
for sure.
Happy
it's
and
the least I
healthy
could
and
do.
whole.
Anybody out there thinking of going to Dr. Ptak, like I said, I've had chiropractic in my life for my pretty much since I was a teenager, and he's right on top as far as
sounds like
chiropractors go.
he treated the whole
Yes.
all of the symptoms, the whole person, not
Yes.
just zeroing in on one thing.
Well,
so
lovely.
it sounds like it made a
Absolutely.
huge difference.
Yeah. Thank
so
you so
wonderful.
much.
Absolutely.
We would love to hear more.
All right,
We'll be in touch.
Yes, okay.
All
Thank
right.
you for
Thank
calling.
Thank you.
Thanks
Of
for
course,
Bye.
calling.
of course.
Bye-bye.
Have a great day. Thanks,
You
You
Doc.
too.
So when someone comes to you like that, what's the course of action and the protocol that you would go through? Like he said, he had to get revisit the injury,
So
and then
there's a term called retracing, and retracing is when you start to open up the nervous system. Since the nervous system's basically a camera, it remembers everything that's ever happened to you, whether we know it or whether we don't know it.
Are we talking physical and psychological?
All of the above.
everything.
It's
Good.
all in there.
Okay. Wow.
And stuff that maybe we bring into this lifetime with. It's all stored inside of us, and as you start to open people up so that they can remember who they truly are, things come up that they have to let go of.
So when you say open up, are you actually physically working on him?
Physically taking the tension off the nervous system, off the spinal cord, off the pinched nerves, and in turn taking the pressure off the brain. Now your body can remember, and it can actually release some old traumas that you never really healed, but maybe we pushed it down trying to treat a symptom. I feel better, but maybe I never had a true healing.
Right.
Yeah, like steroids and things like that, that just, you feel that it takes the pain away, but it's just masking what the
it takes the
underlying...
symptoms away, and
Yeah.
then we want to go ahead and see. That's the greatest time to go in and change things.
So once you get through the initial, I'm so curious about this. Once you
go
get
ahead.
through the initial revisit,
Yes.
what goes on next?
So the body's going to regenerate itself and have the opportunity to regenerate itself more whole. So we make 2 to 3 million new cells every minute. So we're either making healthier ones or we're making sicker ones. We're not consciously aware of it because
Of course not.
there's 100 trillion of them. So the process of really being able to make new ones that are healthy allows the body to slowly start to reorganize itself healthy and whole and stronger and more flexible and more vitally alive and younger and just all of that.
Now, something that our caller mentioned was that it started to feel worse before it started to feel better. Is that a common reaction?
It probably happens maybe 20% of the time where somebody has to revisit something. Sometimes it happens down the road, maybe in 3 months. They might have I remember this knee pain that I had in high school. And I'm like, bingo, that's great. We've just dropped another one.
And then you go back and try to source where the beginnings of that pain started. Do most injuries start from something traumatic that happened to us when we were younger, like a head injury? That I've seen that pattern over and over again, that you can trace, like a knee problem or a hip problem, to something traumatic that happened in the brain when you were younger.
And you can see it on examination. You do objective tests on people. You do thermal scans on their nervous system to see how hot or cold they are, where's their hot spots, where their cold spots are. Taking functional x-rays of people to literally see what their structure looks like, because it's impossible to separate performance and structure. So you can see where the underlying ligament weaknesses are, which is why some vertebrae may be misaligned, and then the body's going to compensate for it.
That's right.
You know, I can have a jaw that moves to the left a little bit, and it'll change my emotion, because maybe I won't think I look so good. It'll change the way I chew, so maybe I'm not going to absorb the food, even if I'm eating great food as well as I could. Same thing with a pinched nerve. Maybe it all could be better if I was expressing myself better, and then my body's going to compensate for it.
Wonderful.
So it does. There's one thing leaks into another.
Absolutely.
That's what I love about the holistic approach, and looking deep enough to see all those things.
And having
and not just going to the source.
Yeah. And having a real deep understanding of how the body really works.
Yes.
How it receives input and what it does with that, and then how it can allow us to create the desires and manifest our lives.
You know, what's coming up for me is when Debbie made that comment that it seems like a lot of these injuries go way, way back. And what occurs to me is, as children, we are so fearless, and we just get ourselves into so many sort of physical, as Debbie would attest.
I know. I'm still going through something I did stupidly 50 years ago. It's still coming up.
But sometimes it's so young and it's so far back, we don't remember it. But
we have another caller. Hello, caller. How are you today? And where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Arnold Strong. I'm calling from Long Beach, California.
Hi, Arnold. Welcome to our show. Yeah. Yes,
very appropriate.
Good name. Thank you for calling. Do you have a question or comment for Dr. Ptak today?
Well, I would tell you a comment for your listeners. Is Dr. Jeff there?
I'm
yes,
right
he
here.
is.
Yes.
Hi, Arnold.
Hello.
Hello,
Yes.
Colonel.
Hey. Hey, I would tell you that for your listeners that Dr. Jeffrey Ptak is not only the best chiropractor I've ever met in my life, he's one of the best healers that I've ever had involved in my life. I first met him when I was a lieutenant colonel stationed here in 2011, but for a 1-year break when I was out of state, I've been seeing him pretty religiously ever since. And, he can testify. When I first met him, I was about 35 pounds heavier. I was way out of alignment. I didn't have the best eating and lifestyle habits. And Dr. Jeffrey Ptak is very much part and parcel, really, of my sort of path to recovery, if you will, for self-healing. So I can just tell you that, I have benefited tremendously from his expertise, from his wisdom, from his compassion and his mentorship.
Wow, that's pretty great testimony there.
Yeah,
that's wonderful.
We're hearing some stories now, and to have you put the exclamation point on it is really great, because it's so important the way you're helping people, Doctor.
Yeah.
You'd like to be called Dr. Jeffrey?
That works.
Okay.
It's easier to pronounce.
Call me anything you want. Just show up.
I call him Dr. Jeff or Dude.
Oh, Dr. Jeff or Dude.
Yeah.
Dr.
Dude.
Dr.
We'll
Dude.
call him Dr. Dude.
I made a
Thanks,
movie about
Arnold.
the dude.
Yeah, thank you so much,
Really
Arnold,
nice,
for calling
Arnold.
in.
That's a great endorsement.
Yes, we've got a lot more to learn from him here. So stay tuned, listen in as we continue the show. But thank you again for calling in.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
Thank you so very much for having me, and thank you for hosting him. He really is one of the finest healers I've ever met in my life.
Oh, that's wonderful.
That's
Well,
great.
Thank you so
much.
much.
We're going to pass that word along. So
Yes.
thank you for calling in to
Yeah.
endorse.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you
Great.
so very
Appreciate it.
much.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Thank you for everything. Thank you.
Wow, very
Okay,
cool.
Yeah,
That's
very
good.
cool. Well,
Yeah.
better cover some of this.
Yeah, no, we will.
Yes.
So going.
We got so much to cover here.
Don't worry, we're getting
That's
there.
okay.
We're getting there. We got it.
I
So you opened your chiropractic practice in 1986.
Yeah, 1986. Graduated in 85. Yeah.
Okay. And at that point, it was for you to holistically, were you taking that approach at that time with all of your patients?
I was being mentored by 2 chiropractors in Santa Monica while I was in school. So from 84 and 85, before I even became a chiropractor, I had the opportunity to just kind of watch, learn, and take care of people.
So did you shadow them?
I shadowed them, and then they just said, go take care of that person
Wow.
in number whatever room that was. And
Yeah.
that was how I was like, what? Okay, that's how it started. So then I realized, okay, intuition is where it needs to go. So since I'm 30, it's been quite a journey of me really tapping into and owning my gift and then being able to just share that gift in the world.
Wow. So describe that a little bit more. So you use your intuition when diagnosing somebody?
So that's kind of how I bring my spiritual practice into my
Have
functional
your own unique
practice.
way. Mm-hmm.
So just a deep knowing, and I know my IntelliKey has been to be of service. So, it's just been that kind of a journey forever,
And tell us some of the things that your office does that you do in all the different. I named a few of them in the introduction, but maybe you can say what that you do and a little bit about how it's done.
Sure. So, in order to just kind of really differentiate myself in the world, and through my own healing and through my own path, what I realized that there's so many amazing people out there that are so gifted and help people feel better in the world. What I really wanted to do for myself was have a deep knowing that this thing that they called asthma was truly gone. And it wasn't until I started practicing a little bit differently, which was more brain-based versus linear or structurally based.
Just going to the
like
spot.
So, like if people have back pain and they go to one doctor or another, they may work on the area where it hurts. What my experience has showed me is that many, let's say low back pain people really have an issue that's somewhere else in their body. Mostly it's weakness in their neck, their head falls forward. So it's kind of like I'll tell people, if you're holding a bowling ball close to your chest, it's easy to do it all day long. But take that bowling ball and bring it 1 or 2 inches out in front of you and see how long you can hold it for. And that's pretty much what people are walking around with. So if I don't address the bowling ball, then the low back pain over time is going to keep coming back, and people are going to have this feeling, well, this therapy doesn't work, that one didn't work, that one doesn't work, when in fact it just wasn't as, the word comprehensive is what comes to me. So it's not as comprehensive as it really is. So my gift is really having that knowledge or wisdom of where's that real cause at. Mrs. Jones, I'm going to work on your neck. I get that it hurts in your back, but so it and then being able to bridge that with people for them to really be able to understand it, to get on board.
So is
that's
that
great.
when you talk about functional
neurology. So versus structural. So
right.
there are medical
Okay.
neurologists that look at things in a certain way.
Okay.
I'm going to look at it from a functional perspective, understanding how does the brain receive input and then how does it process? Where in the brain does it process that? And then find out, is that spot weak? Is that hyperactive? And what can we do to target that particular area?
So you're talking like relief versus corrective. You're going to do.
I'm going to do
both.
correction.
And then you get
the relief.
Relief
Will come.
Exactly.
Versus
yes.
My intention is I want everybody to feel good.
Yeah.
However, in order to get to here, here's the journey.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay. Great.
I love that. That's and you have. Go ahead.
No, how would you say there's a percentage of your clients that it's generated from an actual physical wound or psychological?
Most people come because of the physical, then they start to open up to why things may be hanging on. So it's kind of creating the bridge. You know, you wake up, you don't feel good, you go to the doc, you think it's this. So people compartmentalize. And like my job's just to kind of let them see all of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wonderful.
I love that. And we were going to discuss 5 functions of innate. Will you describe what that means and what the 5 functions are?
So how I hold people is that I understand that the body has a wisdom. It already knows how to be healthy.
I love that. Absolutely.
I love it.
We get in our
So
own way,
true.
called that stress thing. And my job is to let people know that what they're experiencing at any one time is really their gift and not their enemy. So the symptom is the gift if I'm living a life in a certain way where maybe I'm not optimally kind of taking care of myself. Maybe I'm not eating as good as I could. Maybe I'm not exercising as good as I could. Maybe I'm in a job which I don't kind of love, but I'm doing it because.
Yeah.
And so it's all that journey. So innate, we call it in chiropractic innate intelligence, is the body already knows. It just needs no interference on the inside. It doesn't really need a lot of help on the outside.
Yeah.
I need to fuel it. I need some oxygen. I need some glucose, and I need to move. But let's move in a way that's going to allow divine order.
Yeah,
which is who we are.
Divine order. I love that.
Yeah, because unfortunately we live in a world where a lot of us have lost touch with that.
Yes.
We don't realize that. And we keep thinking the answer is something on the outside.
Absolutely,
a pill or
yes.
some type of magic potion or something will make us feel better. When really we do absolutely have innate well-being, innate health within every one of us if we could just quiet down enough and
absolutely
hear it.
and really let it in. Even when we're going through the worst of times.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
I've been
there. A big part of my practice is to be able to help people find balance in all those things that, like I was saying earlier, that feed us, that help us get in alignment, because there isn't just one magic cure for something, because usually if you think there is, that usually causes something else, which is a snowball effect.
Right.
When in fact there's a snowball effect in healing, finding the whole holistic healing process, looking at all aspects of your life, both physical and mental and social, and making sure those come together, and then it all is the snowball effect in a positive way.
Yes.
And that's how I work with clients. And then I would send them, if there's an actual physical pain, I send them to somebody like you.
Gotcha.
Because that part is a different, I would say, education than I have, you know. So, but I love the approach, and the dichotomy today, I think, in our society is that, there, especially here in LA and Hollywood, we're all looking at these pictures of beautiful models and clothing and makeup, and to have the perfect this and the perfect that. But yet advertisers are selling nothing but junk to us. They're selling things that make us sick, that make us fat, that make our skin break out, that make us lose our hair. So everybody wants to get there, but yet they're drinking the Kool-Aid here.
Absolutely.
And so that's where a practitioner, someone with your passion and your knowledge and your expertise, comes in so well. But people have to find you.
Absolutely.
So it's just, and I know you're more global than just your office in, which I want to talk about, because that's
galactic chiropractic.
That's big. That you volunteer for so many things.
Yeah.
And you work with kids too. Do you want to talk a little bit about your work with kids?
I there's no greater gift than for a mommy to hand you their baby.
Mm-hmm.
Not because there's something wrong with them, but because there's something so right within them, and so right in all of us.
So would you say a lot of your clients bring their babies when they don't have any symptoms of anything? They just want to maintain the health that they're born with, basically.
They just want to get them off to a great start.
That's
so they really have a
great.
deep understanding of who I am, what I'm trying to do, and that intuition of,
Now, would these be former clients of yours that know your work and therefore trust their babies to you?
And word of mouth.
Yeah, most people are coming because they've got something up. More and more people are told by moms now, bring your kid. Maybe they're having recurrent ear infections. They're having asthma because that's just, a passion for me. So they'll bring them. But most of the time, it's when I go through somebody's report of findings. Let's say the dad comes in and he'll bring the wife, because I want people to bring their significant other when I go through their findings so that they can support them, and then they have a bigger understanding of what I do.
That's wonderful. Treat the whole family.
Yeah,
that's really holistic.
And a better outcome, because there won't be any distension.
The home is sacred. It's got, so it's like, wow.
Great way to heal. And you've been on so many missions. Tell us about your missions and what you do and how you're helping globally and with your expertise.
I had a mentor way back when. He used to tell stories about him traveling to different countries and just being of service. And so 3 of my friends and Dr. Sigafus just got together one day and said, we need to go do this. And we had an opportunity to connect with the government in Panama. So they gave us a permission to come, and then that just built from there. So that was in 1970 something.
Oh,
wow.
So is that like a Doctors Without Borders type of thing?
Yeah, exactly.
You go there
and what did you do? You obviously had to work with individuals very quickly each. I mean, how did that work? How did you set that up?
The government gave us a place to go. People would come, and then as they started to see what we were doing, they opened up more and more facilities. So we started with 23 of us, and we ended with 144.
Wow!
And we've been to many, many countries since then.
Yeah. Wow,
That's
that must be
great.
very satisfying,
It's
as well
incredible.
as the service you're doing for these
it's
people in
a global
other
message,
countries.
Yeah.
Is there? Do you ever get local practitioners that are similar to what you do to maybe keep it going for you?
Yeah, we do.
So
that's
you
interesting
work
that
with
you
them.
bring it up.
Yeah.
Yes, because one day after my 4th trip to Panama, I was like, LA needs this, so we need to do that here. So it was kind of like a big circle of we're going out, which really showed me the limitlessness of what's possible, because whatever people think about what chiropractic is here in the States, it's just not that way in the rest of the world.
Yeah, it seems
so
that...
it's just interesting.
Yeah. I mean, in the UK where I grew up, it seems like osteopathy, and we tend to call our chiropractors osteopaths as opposed to chiropractors there. But it seems much more acceptable and respected, and has been for a very long time there.
Yes.
Rather than, I think my mum first took me to acupuncture when I was probably about 10, and it's sort of cranial manipulation and things like that.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. Very good.
You see, we do things that are so uniquely different than whatever people think is tradition. It's like there's room for everybody, and we need everybody.
Yes, exactly.
We don't want St. John's to go away. Just want it to be called and taken in a certain way.
I had I had 100% talking about I had a 5-day labor, but I wanted 100% natural childbirth, but I wanted to do it within a hospital setting.
Got it.
Because you never know. You know, when you need that medical intervention, it's great to have it, right here handy. But I didn't want, as long as heart rates and everything, there was no signs of stress. I wanted to go through. Yes, it was hard. Yes, it was painful. All those things, but it was so worth it.
Yeah.
And yet I knew I had the Western medicine right there by my side if I needed it.
Yeah, for sure. So we did a home birth, and we did have that possibility, if need be, to go to a hospital and see somebody.
I mean, when you think about it, I mean, everything was a home birth before the 50s.
That's exactly,
the late
exactly
50s.
Right. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's in the hospital.
But
I want you to touch on some of the other things that you work on, other illnesses that people come in with, because I'm curious, do they come in, can you treat things like obsessive compulsive disorder, anxiety attacks, as well as the physical ailments?
Okay, so that's a great question. So I'll start by saying we don't really treat anything. So that's number one. That's medicine definitely treats, but the possibility of opening up somebody's brain by activating it in a certain way, things can drop off like that.
Yeah.
You with me?
Yes, definitely.
So completely yes.
Wow, I love that.
So if you sat in my reception area, you'd hear stories. And people in my office are very active, so people really don't wait. And people are always doing things because motion's important. We're hydrating, and people are doing some really unique things in my office.
Incredible.
Because we have to drive brain function, and you need joints to do it, you need muscles to do it, and you need to balance them out.
Can you go into that a little deeper?
Yes.
Just for our, and you said they sound like wonderful words of wisdom for people out there that might feel that they can't maybe afford to come and see a chiropractor. If there's things that they can do within their life and in their home to help their overall health.
Yeah, absolutely. I think even on my website or on maybe I even have a YouTube page which shows a bunch of different things that people can do. But we'll always work with people to make sure they can get the care that they need at affordable
You do have it
rates.
on your website.
I do?
Yes,
Okay,
you
good.
have like a area that just says treatment, and then like you can click on if this is happening to you or that, and then you
great. I love that.
You give them a protocol to follow. Yeah.
I'm so glad I have people that take care of that.
I know.
So I can take
You
care
do.
of others.
I
That's
saw
great.
it on your website.
Okay, good. So it's
good.
So I forgot your question.
So
but
for our listeners listening
Okay,
in
got
that
it.
maybe think, oh, I can't afford to go to a chiropractor.
Yes.
What are like some tips that you can give them that they? I heard you say hydration.
Hydrate. So I got people
glucose.
drinking water. I've
Yeah,
got
so
people
big.
moving. So you got to move. We try to teach them to move in a unique way. If people have certain types of ailments, there's certain body parts that may need to be strengthened before you can move on. So let's just say in my head, since we talked about low back pain before, I'll usually start strengthening glutes with people before I'll start anywhere
I
else.
hear you loud and clear.
Because the weakness in the tush really is why the low back muscles will start to contract and create a whole lot of
And
other
also
Our
things.
glute muscles are our biggest muscle in our body.
But our abdomen as well. I mean,
Absolutely, but
yeah.
we're going to start glutes first, and then the abs will come later.
Yeah, because you
So-
want to go from the
Great.
big muscle to
Yeah,
the smaller.
absolutely, yeah.
So
In
how?
different ways. So isometrics is big with me.
Yeah. Okay,
Increased
wonderful.
tone. When people are exercising, I'll move them into burst training type stuff, high intensity,
intensity
short
intervals.
duration, so people can fit it into their day. And, it burns fat, and it's just awesome. And there's the whole hormonal component that gets addressed that way, too.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
So
It
that's so what about yoga?
What about it? I have a yoga practice. I love
cool.
it.
Great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you have a personal yoga
I have
practice.
a personal
Yes.
yoga practice,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Somehow I get all this in. I don't know.
I know.
It really
That's
gets
great.
in, yes.
That's
Because
so great.
yoga puts us, into it. It helps elongate our muscles. It makes us limber, and plus mentally, we get into that meditative state where
Absolutely.
we become aware of our body as a whole.
Without a doubt, it becomes a spiritual lifestyle practice, and
Yeah.
that's how I hold
My
it.
daughter
I'm a
is a yoga
complete junkie
I
instructor.
love
here.
that. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
And just as we get older too, I just feel like sort of when we open up our hip joints and things like that, I just see the oxygen rushing to those
gotta
places
move
and
it.
just
Yeah.
really.
I have a
healing.
question about that before we
And then
lose
and
time.
I wanna make
about
one
aging.
statement.
Well,
Okay, got it,
yeah,
good.
because we want to hear
About
your final
balance.
words and stuff.
Okay,
But as we age, and I'm, with all the diet, exercise, and everything I do to keep myself in balance, I'm still getting those aches and pains. And then I'm educated enough and aware enough to be able to make some adjustments. But everybody I know, all my clients, everybody I teach who are 40 and up mostly, will come to me and say, oh, what am my knees are gone, my hip is gone, my shoulder's gone, and every other person I know is going through some surgery in the next year or so.
Yeah.
So what is it that is that preventative 100%, or is just the process of aging? We've got to adjust as we age to everything, the way we move, the way we eat, the way we think. Is that
we
the
do.
answer?
Well, yeah. You know, I'm a chiropractor, so I'm going to say we all need a chiropractor. We all need a trainer. We all need a chef, if you will.
Yeah, or
so
the
I'm
knowledge
seeing
of
it
how
as a
to.
triune. So we want to, you know, I could be exercising, but if I'm kind of twisted, then I'm going to be wearing one hip more than another, one knee more than another, one ankle more than another. So to be able to uncoil, if you will, the body doesn't
Years
kind
and
of
years
move.
of that,
Literally,
right.
we have to untwist it. So that's the uniqueness of
It
what I do.
becomes more damaging the older we get and the more we do the
Absolutely.
same kind of thing over and
Yeah.
over again.
Yeah.
It's really the number one thing that I see with people as they age is
Got it.
they're, everything starts to fall apart
got it.
joint-wise, muscle-wise.
See, so I'm 62 and I'm not going through that, and I've been on this journey for 41 years. So we can certainly talk more about that.
Yeah,
for
yeah, I'd
sure.
like to.
So you said you wanted to make a statement. What
Balance.
Was just about balance.
So one of the things that most people do not do is deal with balance type exercises. So one of the biggest things I'll notice with people when they age, and probably a piece of why they hurt, is they're doing things in certain planes only. So we'll work out in a certain way when we go to the gym. I have people doing lots of different balance type exercises.
Like on the Bosu ball?
Like
or-
Bosu ball.
Stability ball?
Uneven platforms, doing different types of walks,
all the
eyes
time.
open, eyes closed, that kind of thing, which is why I think lots of people fall when they're older. Maybe it's not that hip that breaks first. It's like they're falling and the hip goes.
I agree 100%. I have my oldest client is 83.
Okay, got it.
And I've been working with her for 10 years. And
Love
so one of the things that we've worked on throughout her stay with me is balance, because and then I have a client who's 70, and then the rest of my clients kind of start from 17 on up.
Got it.
But I work with balance on all of them.
Beautiful.
Because I do. My 17-year-old is a football player, so and he has a different set of issues with
Yes.
balance.
Yeah.
I get them all to stabilize that core, working with the glutes, starting from there and working into the abdominals, so they understand that everything stems from there. And, with my 83-year-old client, I tell her, get your friends to a trainer who can work balance with them. She said she's seen so many of her friends just trip slightly and then fall and break a hip or break it. And she's tripped and never broken. You know what I mean? She catches herself.
I love it.
She wears heels, high heels, because
Totally awesome.
I saw this
it's
exercise the
proof.
other day. It was so cool. It was they were doing yoga on like individual platforms, like large surfboards in a pool.
I saw that.
Isn't it
It's
cool?
going around the internet.
I
Yeah,
know. It
it's
just
great.
looks
My
so
daughter's
great.
like, I'm gonna go figure that one out
That's
because
hysterical.
my daughter could do that. I think
because I do yoga on the
So
beach
smart.
and on soft sand. You have to do a
It's
lot
work.
of balance.
That's a
Yes.
lot of work.
and
Oh
I
my
also
God,
do
I
it in
love
a
that.
studio, and it's a lot easier in the studio. I can tell
Yeah.
you.
And
Plus, on the
I'll-
sand, you're getting the
Yeah.
grains. You're touching the earth. I love that.
Well, we're
love
coming, we're winding up here shortly, so we want to have you just, if there's any last little tips you want to give or words of wisdom for our listener, and then also we'd like to have you say again your website, how people can contact you.
Oh, sure.
So
And any events you have coming up, or any way people can get involved in anything.
Oh, I love that. There's always something going on in my office. Usually Wednesday nights, 6:15. There's always some sort of talk going on in my office. So
Fabulous.
free of charge to anybody. Whoever listening in right now, I'm happy to make an offer to see someone and do a full exam, X-rays, and a report of all my findings for no charge. And just mention that you heard us on the radio today, and you're
Wow.
in. So
Wonderful.
please
That's great.
feel because such gratitude for people that take the time to listen.
Uh-huh.
My takeaway for folks is to really, really take in that whatever's going on with them, this too can pass. There is a neurological component to all of it. There's an emotional component to all of it, which again is in the nervous system. And there's the food component and there's the motion component. And I'm here to help people with all of it. It may look a little weird. I might have people balance on uneven boards, wearing body weights, using a certain scent in one nose, and wearing glasses and having them balance and looking at lights. Because again, it's all about driving brain to be able to open that up and truly heal.
Yeah. What's coming up for me? I mean, so would somebody contact you if they had depression
They would, I would hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please,
Okay.
please,
Yeah.
please,
All right,
please.
wonderful.
And you deal with trauma too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like
Absolutely,
trauma,
yes.
both physical and
work
mental.
with other professionals. I've been doing this in LA for 30-something years, so I know a lot of people, and we'll make sure we get people to the right people.
Okay, that's
for
great.
sure.
Because there's a
That's
lot
so
of people
lovely.
out there that
absolutely.
are struggling.
It's a great offer you made too.
Emotionally and
I
psychologically,
would love
and
to help.
not necessarily physically, and they might
Yes.
think not to contact you because
Exactly.
they don't have a physical ailment.
Yes, because depression is a physical ailment.
Yeah.
You know, it really
Absolutely.
is.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So, knowing that, I mean, we're talking more about depression. It really is. I mean, people just make the slightest little changes in their life. They realize they don't need to be on medication. I work a lot with people that are
Gotcha.
trying to get off their medications. I've
Got
helped
it.
people. I worked in drug and alcohol rehabs for a long time.
Ah.
And I could see the correlation between drug addiction and self-care. There was
Yes.
it was missing, you know, and
Yeah.
it's awful. So tell people how they can get a hold of you.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, my website is ptakfamilychiropractic.com. It's my name. My email address is drjeffreyptak@gmail.com. If you have a question, write me. I'll write you back. Give me a day or two. And my office number, 310-473-7991. I'm easy to find on Facebook or on Google, I'm sure.
Yeah, just mention where your office is.
And I'm in
'cause-
Santa Monica, California.
Wonderful.
Yes.
So not
Where
very
everybody
far.
wants to be.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Well, we're lucky
Yeah.
that you're close by, and now I
Yeah.
have someone else for my clients too,
Yay.
which is great. Well, we
Yeah.
have to thank you very much again for taking time out
my
of your
pleasure.
busy day to join us today to help so many others. And we loved the callers and such great
Yes,
endorsements.
wonderful. And I'm definitely going to be coming in seeing you myself.
Make that too.
Okay, good. Offer goes to you too as well.
That's so wonderful.
You're on the call.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Hey, you're not gonna get us out of
Yeah,
that.
thank you so much for
Thank
that
you.
offer for
My
our
pleasure.
listeners.
Really
That was
appreciate
amazing.
it. Everybody
Thank
have
you.
a great day. We're here next
Yes.
week. Down Debbie's Mind, Body, Soul. Bye, everybody.
Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you, Dr.
Have a
Ptak.
wonderful week.
Thank you so much. Bye now.
Bye now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.